Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, hosted by the GSMC Podcast Network. As you guys know, I'm your host, Casuan Caudle, and I'm so grateful to be back here with you guys. I feel like it's been forever. It's been about a week, though. I'm so grateful to be back with you guys talking about this wonderful game of basketball. I know I say it every day, but every time I get an opportunity to talk about something I love and something that's been such a huge part of my life, I'm really grateful for that. I'm so thankful. And thank you guys just for listening and tuning in. This is going to be a great show. We've got a lot to talk about today, as usual. A lot of interesting stuff has been going on today, going on just in the past couple of days in the world of basketball, specifically the NBA. And I want to dive right into it. The biggest thing that I've seen the past couple of days is Steph Curry and his reemergence. And people are finally starting to see the greatness of Steph Curry, or at least finally have to accept it. I think a lot of people have been in denial about that for the past, quite frankly, half decade. Why that is, we can talk about that, but people are finally starting to accept and see the greatness for Steph Curry and what he is. So we're going to be talking about Steph Curry's greatness and his streak over the past couple of days. We're also going to talk about the recent re-injuries to KD and James Harden, and does that hurt Brooklyn's playoff chances? No pun intended. They just can't seem to stay healthy. That is such an odd situation. We're also going to talk about the Pelicans, the young New Orleans Pelicans, all that talent, all the young talent on that team, full of young, bright stars. Have they underperformed? Have they underachieved? Have they been a disappointment this season? We're going to talk about that. And lastly, we're going to close out with CJ McCollum. Yes, CJ McCollum, the guard out of Portland. The backcourt mate to Damian Lillard. Is he a top 25 player? That answer might surprise you. We're also going to talk about the health or the injury update to Lamelo Ball, and should he return this season? So those two things are going to be talked about during the last segment. So stick around for that. It's definitely not something you're going to miss. But getting back into our beginning topic, Steph Curry. Steph Curry is hands down, without a doubt, emphatically the single player that has had the most dominant or largest impact on the game of basketball in terms of revolutionizing the game. Not even close. Not even close. But first, I want to talk about Steph Curry. And is he an MVP candidate? Is he a legitimate MVP candidate this year? So let's just read off his stats. Right? Let's read off his stats just from the past 10 games. We're going to do it from the past 10 games. So past 10 games, point totals. Steph has scored 32, 36, 37, 41, 32, 38, 53, 42, 33, 47, and 49. And if we go in the past 6 games, it's 38, 53, 42, 33, 47, and 49. Now, he broke Kobe Bryant's record for most points in a 6-game span that Kobe held, starting from, I think, 07 up to now. But I didn't get my degree in math. But that's a lot of points. That seems to be well over, I want to say over 300 points, over almost 500, if I'm not mistaken, in the past 10 games. Or it's about almost 400. Yeah, almost 400 points in the past 10 games. And that's just in the month of April. And we can look at his stats for the entire season. I mean, on the season, he's averaging 31 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, shooting 50% from the field, shooting 43% from the three-point line, shooting 92% from the free throw line, has a PER of 26.8, win share 7.5. And if we remember, Steph was actually in a shooting slump earlier this year, right before he got on the streak. And he hasn't been getting much attention or publicity due to the fact that that Golden State is fighting for a playoff spot. They're the 9 seed currently at 500. So they're fighting to be in the playing game. Or they would be in the playing game, but which is why Steph Curry hasn't been getting the publicity, because their team is not, their record is not very good. So with the stats that Curry's putting up, and yes, he has fought Golden State back into the playing games, does that make him an MVP candidate? So often we say, and I am a proponent of this too, normally the best team has the best player. The only exception, and I don't think that that Russell should have got the MVP that year, but it's when Russell Westbrook won MVP because of his triple-double, because we have a triple-double during the 2016-2017 season. But if we recall, OKC was the 6th seed that year. Now, if you were to ask me, I think that Kevin Durant or LeBron James should have won MVP that year. But they gave it to Russ because he averaged a triple-double, and that hadn't happened since Oscar Robertson. So it's very rare that you can give the MVP to a player to a player on a team that doesn't have the best record. Because how impactful can you be if your team is not barely even pushing 500? Now, obviously, circumstances can play into that: injuries, lack of talent on the roster, coaching. But great players overcome that. And what we're starting to see is Steph is starting to overcome that. The injuries, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green hasn't been playing. He missed some games. Wiseman is hurt as well. Oubre has missed games. So Steph Curry is starting to rise above all of that and lead this Golden State team into the playing games. And they're 7-3 in the past 10 games. And they're 6-4. In the past 10 games. And we're starting to see them get into a rhythm. And so with the wins, now they're starting to win more, so they get more notoriety. Now people are starting to see Steph Curry for what he really is. But is it a case of too little, too late? I mean, there's only 16 games left. What would it take for Curry to seriously be considered as an MVP candidate? personally, I would say that he would need to keep the streak up. Not only would he need to keep the streak up, but he would need to get Golden State into the top 8 seed, not just the top 12, but he would need to get Golden State to at least that 8 seed in the Western Conference to be seriously considered in the MVP race. Just in my opinion, because in my opinion, I just feel like it's a case of a little too late. But that doesn't take away from what he's doing right now. He's doing something that very rarely has ever been seen. And I hope that people now are finally able to see the greatness for Steph Curry. And so often people it seems like almost envy or an envy of him and didn't want to give him credit because he wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the tallest, he wasn't the fastest, but he relied solely on his skill set. And you have to give him more respect for that because it takes work and effort to hone in on your skill set. And so a lot of people didn't want to give him credit. And so people would always say, well, he's not the best shooter. What about Ray Allen? What about Reggie Miller? What about Larry Bird? What about his teammate Klay Thompson? After these past 10 games, I hope you guys have been able to see and understand that Steph Curry, without a doubt, no questions asked, is the best shooter of all time. It's not even close. Off the dribble, not even close. Off the catch, okay, we can still talk about maybe Klay Thompson. But off the dribble, no, pure shooting, Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time. I mean, look at this stat right here. He's made 78 threes in the last 10 games. It's insane. And he's so efficient. He's becoming more efficient in doing all of this, that I might add. And what we have to realize, what we have to understand is that Steph, his impact is bar none and is something that's unquantifiable and something that's, quite frankly, is not going to be seen again for a very long time. I mean, he has created spacing on the NBA court to a whole nother level. I mean, guys are literally no longer running the lanes to get layups, but running the corners to get open threes. A basic concept that has been institutionalized in the NBA for decades has been changed in a matter of 5 years. So then the question becomes, so is Steph Curry a top 25 player of all time? So let's look at some of his career accolades. He's a 7-time All-Star, 2015, 2016 steals leader, 6-time All-NBA, 2-time MVP, first unanimous MVP as well, 2015-16 scoring champion, 3-time NBA champion, and 2009-2010 All-Rookie team. Now, some people say, well, Sean, he doesn't have any. He's never won a Finals MVP. How can he be a top 25 player of all time if he never won Finals MVP? That 2015-2016 season, they gave that Finals MVP to Andre Iguodala, who won that award because he guarded LeBron James. But we have to remember that LeBron still averaged 37 a game even after the switch, even when Iguodala was switched onto them. So Iguodala didn't really slow down LeBron. But this was still in that moment, in that time frame where people didn't want to accept Steph Curry's greatness for what it was. So they looked for any and every reason to give the Finals MVP to Iguodala. So Steph Curry averaged 25 points, 5 assists, and 6 rebounds, I want to say, for that final series. So he by far should have been Finals MVP that season. Then in the 2017 during the 2016-2017 NBA Finals, yes, Kevin Durant was hands down the best player in that series. He should have won that one. But then the next year, 2017-2018, Steph averaged 27, 8, and 9. 27 points, 8 assists, 9 rebounds. Now, KD averaged like 34 points that series. So that's the debatable one. We can debate that one. We can debate whether Steph should have won that one. But it's not even so. Steph Curry should at least have won, at minimum, one Finals MVP. And even if you don't want to give him top 15, whatever, he is top 25. Simply off of how he revolutionized the game. Just like how Wilt has to be in your top 25, just off because of how he revolutionized the game. Whether you want to poo-poo his stats or diminish his stats because of the era that he played in, he still revolutionized the game. Just like Steph. Steph has completely revolutionized the game. No longer are guys looking to dunk and be extremely athletic, but now they're relying on skill set, which is what this game is truly all about, developing your skill set and being the best player you can on a skill set level. So, in my opinion, Steph Curry he's in my top 25. And so even if he's not in your top 25, what would it take? What would it take for Steph to be in your top 25? That is my question. Another MVP, another finals, another finals MVP, a finals MVP. If he gets all three of those, then even if he gets two, if he gets if he gets another ring and he gets the finals MVP before his career ends, he's top 15, not even close. And if he gets another regular season MVP, he's top 10, not even close. It's not even close. So Steph Curry is definitely a top 25 player all time at the moment as we speak. And we have to be accepting of that. A lot of people haven't failed to accept that. And some people say it was because the whole light skin dynamic, gets a lot of criticism for that because of his complexion. And a lot of players don't like him. Like, it's whatever. That get that out the window. Who cares? We are playing basketball. We are watching greatness, and we have to give respect for that. Now, what I won't say is that Steph Curry is the greatest point guard of all time, because he's not. He's not a point guard. He's a great shooter, but when you look at what a point guard really is and what you want out of a point guard, he's not the best pure point guard. No, he might not be top 3 point guard, pure point guard. No, he's not top 3. Greatest shooter though. The greatest shooter that happens to play the quote-unquote point guard position. I'll give you that, yeah, for sure. But the best point guard, no. Top 25 all-time player? Absolutely. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Top 25 player. All time. I mean, just looking at his skill set. And people forget how great he is at finishing around the rim. And he's up there with Kyrie, quite frankly. So Steph is without a doubt top 25 player all time. Is he in the MVP race this year? He would have to keep this streak up, like I said, for the rest of the season and get Golden State into that top 8 to at least 8 seed for me to give him serious consideration. But even with that, it will be a slim chance that he wins it. But the fact that he's been on this streak is just incredible, and we have to give him respect for that. But another player that was on a hot streak earlier this year was James Harden. But unfortunately, he had some injuries, and now he's hurt. And this most recent news regarding his injury might be surprising to some people. And his running mate, Kevin Durant, has also got some recent news in regards to his injury. So if you just stick around for this next segment, I'm going to talk about all that Brooklyn's seemingly constant revolving tour of injuries and how it's going to affect their playoff chances, if at all. So stick around for that. It's definitely not something you're going to want to miss.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Thank you for continuing to listen to us, the GSMC Basketball Podcast. As you guys know, I'm your host, Casuan Caudle. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for staying with us after the first segment. And clearly you were with us at the first segment, if you're still listening. And I talked about is Steph Curry legitimately in the MVP race. And I stated that for him to be in serious consideration in the MVP race, he needs to continue this level of play that he's been on over the past 10 games, while also leading Golden State to at least the 8th seed in the playoffs. But I thought to myself, and I got a text from one of my former teammates that kind of sparked my thoughts. Is Paul George an MVP candidate? I mean, the Clippers are a top 3 team in the West. Paul George is averaging 27 a game right now, and he just had 33 the other night against Portland. So maybe we should start considering Paul George as a serious MVP candidate. I mean, everyone else is off the list. And KD, Harden, LeBron. All those guys are off. So maybe we should think about Paul George as a MVP candidate. Who knows? Just a thought, just throwing it out there. Something to think about. But speaking of KD and Harden and this entire saga, drama, soap opera that is the Brooklyn Nets. And when I say soap opera, I do want to say this. You can tell that on the court, I don't know about off the court, but on the court, reading body language, those guys genuinely like each other and care about each other. You can tell by the body language and mannerisms, how they look at each other, how they talk to each other. There's a genuine bond and brotherhood with, Harden and Harden and KD and Kyrie and everyone on that Brooklyn roster. They genuinely all like each other. Reading body language. So now soap opera in that sense. Soap opera in the sense of they just can't get out of that revolving door of injuries. The injury bug has plagued them profusely. I mean, just and we can take it back to last week, actually. LaMarcus Aldridge retiring abruptly. Now, you guys already know this by now, but LaMarcus Aldridge retired abruptly due to an irregular heartbeat that was noticed by him. And it turns out he actually has, now I forget the name of the disease, so someone can correct me on that, but it's not Marfan. It's not Marfan syndrome, but it's basically an irregular heartbeat. And he got diagnosed with this disease back in 2006 when he first got drafted. but there was never any symptoms or never any signs. But this was the first time he had an irregular heartbeat. And they said when he was in the doctor's office, they said that I'm done. I'm done. He said that, he has a wife and kids to worry about and provide for. And so it's absolutely understandable for him to retire from this game. He's done everything he could for this game. He just gave it all to his game. Only thing he hasn't won is the championship, but we wouldn't be considering LaMarcus Aldridge as a Hall of Fame candidate anyways. But he's done a lot for this game. And you gotta know when to hang it up sometimes. Or all the time, sorry, you have to know when to hang it up. So it starts out with LaMarcus Aldridge abruptly retiring. So that's one down. And then we have KD, who's been back for about 5 or 6 games, starting to get his rhythm back. Looks like he hasn't missed a beat. And he enters his quad, I believe. He entered his quad against Miami when he attacked the basket and he got caught up with Trevor Ariza. He's just it's almost like a Charlie horse, someone knees you in the thigh or the quad specifically, and you get that little lump. But that's what he has, and so now he's day to day. And then we have James Harden, who was already hurt, going through the rehab process, and then he gets a setback on the rehab process, and now he's out indefinitely. Hopefully he'll be back in time for the playoffs. And just to get specifics on the Harden situation. So Steve Nash, the head coach of the Nets, he stated that in regards to James Harden, that we'll rehabilitate him and get him back whenever he can. And who knows when that will be. We'll support James and our performance team in getting him back in the best condition as possible. And hopefully that comes sooner than later, but there's no guarantee. Like I said, Harden experienced the setback on Monday during an on-the-court rehab session. So it wasn't anything like an abrupt movement or playing. He just kind of felt it. And they did the MRI and found that there was a setback. And they also stated that Kevin Durant's status is actually more positive than that of James Harden, which is good news for Kevin Durant, but that says a lot about the status of James Harden as well. And there's 2 things that worried me. First is the health of Kevin Durant. The thing that worries me with Kevin Durant is that Kevin Durant is getting different types of injuries on different parts of his body. First it was his left hamstring. After the kill, first it was his left hamstring, now it's his thigh on his right side. And we worry because once the playoffs roll around and the game starts to get into a half-court set, it's going to be more physical. There's going to be more bumps and shoves, more physicality, quite frankly. And will Kevin Durant be able to sustain that impact? I mean, he's getting hurt right now. And I talked about this in the previous episode. Should they just shelve Harden and KD until the playoffs start? Because I stated that I don't think they'll have a problem building chemistry just because of what I've seen from them when they have played together. I don't think they'll have any problem creating that chemistry quickly. But when it's actually thrown in front of you, the thought process, the thought that they actually might not get to play together, it's interesting to think about. And it makes you kind of question your stance. But I'm going to stand by what I said. I don't think they're going to need 16 games to build that chemistry. I think they have enough talent to create that chemistry and synergy with each other at an adequate level enough for them to be successful in the playoffs. And it's very unlikely that they're going to all three, Harden, KD, and Kyrie, that they're all going to get to play together the rest of the regular season. And right now they're currently, I believe they're in the 2 seed right now in the Eastern Conference, the 2 seed. So now it's just about a matter of sustaining that, being in the top 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. And this is not going to affect their playoff. I don't think this will affect their playoff success. Like I said in the previous episode, they have too much. I've seen too much talent and too much chemistry. I've seen too much out of those 3 guys that when they do play, that they'll be able to gel and make it work. And I don't have any question about that. The only team that is going to give them struggles in the Eastern Conference is the 76ers. But the thing that is going to propel Brooklyn against Philly is their ability to score in the half court set. So with Philly, I question Ben Simmons' ability and Joel Embiid's ability to score in the half court set, because what's going to happen is Brooklyn's just going to double team Embiid. And now it's going to they're going to have to rely on Tobias Harris, Seth Curry, Danny Green. They're going to have to rely on those shooters to hit open shots. And will Ben Simmons, who scores a lot of his points in transition and off of steals, will he be successful in the half court set? I don't know how successful they can be, and they'll have the firepower to match Brooklyn, quite frankly. So even with all these injuries and everything that's been going on in Brooklyn, I don't think that they're going to be at a disadvantage because of these injuries. Now, ideally, yes, you want your 3 superstars to be playing together. But there is an interesting stat that I saw on ESPN. So let me start by saying this. So KD, Kyrie, and Harden have all missed 10-plus games, so double-figure games. There has never been an NBA champion where their 3 top leading scorers all 3 missed double-figure games. And that was an interesting stat to me. I thought about that. Wow. All 3. Maybe 2 out of 3 missed 10-plus games, but all 3 missing 10-plus games. There's never been a champion. NBA champ that where all 3 others leading scorers missed 10-plus games. And that's an interesting stat for Brooklyn, obviously, because all 3 have missed 10-plus games. But moving forward, I don't think it's going to affect them. Because you're talking about 3 of the top 10, not just players, but scorers in the league, offensive players. And KD's never going to have a problem fitting into any offense. He's so efficient. He can play anywhere. You can put him anywhere, and he'll be successful. Get him come off pin downs, flex cuts, trailing, put him at the point forward. He's going to be successful wherever you put him. And Harden is such a willing passer now, and he's a facilitator. We see that he's a pure point guard now. His ability to ice ball screens and completely remove his defender from the play so that it becomes a 5-on-4, creates an advantage, creates those lob opportunities. And we have Kyrie, who's the ability to attack straight off the dribble, or off the jab and probe the paint and collapse the defense and then kick it out. These are all efficient, successful guys. So I don't see any of them having a problem, gelling with each other. And what I have seen in the 7 games that they played together, it's phenomenal. It's amazing to watch. And there's another stat that I saw too that's pretty interesting. So think about this. Harden has played more games in Houston than he has with both KD and Kyrie at the same time. That's just a testament to how injury-plagued this Brooklyn team has been and how much time these stars have missed. But if you think about it, that Harden trade seems so long ago. But that just shows, like I said, goes to show how much time these guys have missed playing with each other at the same time. And that's going to be interesting to watch. It's going to be good to watch. Watch them moving forward. Because at full strength, I've never seen or can think of an offensive team across any sport that's going to be as dynamic as them, even when it comes to the playoffs. So this Brooklyn team is going to be just fine. It's not going to be anything to worry about. This is a way to create narrative, obviously. And Kyrie brought up a good quote. Actually, also, he said that this has just been our MO. I'm paraphrasing. This has been our MO all season, making adjustments on the fly and adjusting to adverse situations and communicating with one another and just being there for each other as a team, as a family. And I couldn't have summed it up any better. When adversity hits you, you have to respond accordingly. You can't just stop. You have to move forward, communicate, and be there for the people you love and care about, and move forward together as a family, regardless of what's going on. You have to push through it. You have to. There's no stopping. You have to continue to push through. And Kyrie summed it up perfectly right there, and I couldn't think of anything better to say. I mean, the guys are still hurt. They're still not going to play, but the games are still meant to be had. So you got to go out there and play with whatever you have. And that's why I think they'll be fine. There's not going to be any problems with them. I think they'll be okay. But I can't think of a team that has been so injury plagued. A super team. The closest thing is maybe 2 years ago, Golden State. When KD got hurt, Boogie got hurt, Clay got hurt, and that was all in the playoffs though, not during the regular season. That's the only time I can think about this many superstars on one team being injury plagued for this long over the course of one season. That's the only thing I can think of. The only team I can think of. But it's gonna be good. It's gonna be nice to see them all healthy and at full strength, playing with one another. Because, like I said, this is gonna be the most dynamic, explosive offensive team across all sports of all time. So it's gonna be exciting to see that in the playoffs. Speaking of highly explosive offensive teams, there's another team that's extremely offensively talented and quite young. Actually, they just played Brooklyn last night, though they lost. A highly explosive offensive team full of young stars that may have had a disappointing season up to date. And we're going to talk about why exactly this team has been a disappointment up till now. So if you're not sure what team I'm talking about, be sure to stick around for the next segment, and you're going to get to hear all the details and everything that I feel and that I know, proved by stats, about this team that I feel has been a disappointment in the NBA. And also stick around for our final segment to hear me talk about whether CJ McCollum is a top 25 player. And also should Lamelo Ball, who just got cleared to play or return to basketball activities, should he return this season with only 16 games left? So stick around. You're going to hear all of this information. There's nothing you're going to miss. So stick around. Be sure to tune in.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Everybody, welcome back. Thank you for continuing to tune into the GSMC Basketball Podcast. In our previous segment, we talked about the injuries to Brooklyn involving KD and James Harden, and how that's going to affect Brooklyn down the line going into the playoffs. Now, if you were tuned in previously, I said that I don't think it's going to affect them too much because I've seen what they can be and seen the potential they have when they do play together. And knowing all three of those guys' high level of IQ, they won't have a problem adjusting for the playoffs. But one team in particular, a team that hasn't been riddled with injuries, has still been a disappointment, for lack of better words. And that team is the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, if you were to tell me a team with Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, Steven Adams, Lonzo Ball, formerly JJ Redick, if you were to tell me a roster with those guys wouldn't be in the playoffs, I would think you're lying to me. I would think you're just flat out lying to me. But this team, they are a very young team. But this team has vastly underperformed and have been underwhelming this entire season. In spurts, they're fun to watch, though. I mean, they offensively they can put on a show. I mean, if I just look at the stats right now, they're averaging 115 points a game, which is sixth best in the league. And just last night, they put up 129 on Brooklyn. Now, they also gave up 134 points to Brooklyn, and which goes to show they're right on schedule because they give up 115 points a game, which is third worst in the league. And their defensive rating is also third worst in the league. And there's entirely too much talent on this team, too much talent on this roster. And so I'm watching their games and I'm trying to analyze their body language, their tone, and everything's going on, just to try and figure out what the problem is and where the disconnect is. And then I started looking at the huddle. And just like what I did with the Boston Celtics, when I analyzed them, those guys are checked out. They're not listening to Stan Van Gundy anymore. Stan Van Gundy has lost that locker room. After not even being there for a whole year. And I think what part of it has to do with the dynamics and how he coaches. So a lot of the guys on the roster right now, they had Alvin Gentry. They were on the roster last year when Alvin Gentry was the coach. And there was a higher respect level for Alvin Gentry as opposed to Stan Van Gundy because of the mannerisms and how each one of them carried themselves and how they communicated with the players. So Alvin Gentry, when he would communicate with the guys, it was as if a father figure was talking to them. It was calming, relaxing, but still stern and respectful. I think that the Pelicans, they let Alvin Gentry go. David Griffin, he let Alvin Gentry go too soon. A year away. I think it would just given them one more year for those guys to really continue to mold and develop because they were young. They were young then. They still are young now. I think Alvin Gentry could have had those guys moving in the right direction. As opposed to Stan Van Gundy, who's known for being kind of loud and abrasive and whiny and kind of naggy. That's how he comes across in his coaching. But he's a great commentator, by the way. Great analyst. And he's had good coaching sense as well. But his coaching style can wear people out pretty quickly. Same way Tom Thibodeau can. Because if you hear someone whine and complain all the time, 24/7, every single day, you're going to start to tune them out. And that's what it looks like these players have started doing to Stan Van. He's complaining, yelling at them, and rightfully so, because these guys are not playing defense at all. And it's hard to teach defensive principles to a young team. It takes a lot of patience. Because the defensive principles in the NBA are much different as opposed to college. And the court spacing is wider, so that you got to learn how to close out properly, which top foot to close out with. Where am I shading the help to? There's a lot more intricate and complex principles on the defensive end that it takes a while for young players to adjust to. So that's why you see with young teams, they tend to give up a lot more points. Not because of lack of effort, but they need time to actually learn the defensive principles and not only learn them, but execute them correctly. And that goes with trial and error. You have to make mistakes first before you can be successful. And you're seeing that with these young guys, but Stan Van is not getting his point is not getting across because they tuned him out, and they tuned him out because of his coaching style. Nagging, whining, always yelling. No one wants to be around that, as opposed to Alvin Gentry, who was had a calmer demeanor, relaxed, spoke to you with respect. Not to say that Stan Van doesn't talk to those guys with respect, but it's just a matter that comes across. Like, no one wants to be around that all the time. But there's a time and place for everything that has to be understood. But all the time, whining and yelling that all the time, it's just people are going to start to tune you out. And when trade rumors were coming out about Lonzo Ball possibly getting traded, something interesting stood out to me that Stan Van didn't support, or he didn't address the media in the way that, as a player, I know I would have wanted him to. So what he said when asked about the Lonzo Ball trade rumors, he said that the organization is going to do what's best for the team, and he's going to back it up. Basically saying, if you want to trade Lonzo Ball, trade him. I'm going to be here either way. As a player, that's how it's going to come across to me. And so as a player, if you don't hear your coach say, "We want Lonzo here, we're not going to trade him," or something to that manner, I now think that you think I'm expendable, and so I'm not going to give you as much respect because you clearly don't view me with that much respect because you think I'm expendable. What we can see is that plays a factor, and when you as a player, you want coaches that are going to support you and going to be there for you that you feel like they're going to be in your corner. Because when you feel like someone cares about you, you're willing to do more, any and everything for them. That's just a life lesson. However, that's not the case with Stan Van. Stan Van didn't. That was a moment right there where he could have regained the locker room, and he could have garnered the support, and he could have gained the trust of those players by going out there and saying, "We like what we have right now, and we're not going to make any trades. I don't think upper management should make any trades because what we have right now is good." If he would have said that, I guarantee you, he would have got more. He would have been able to get more out of the players for this part of the season. But after that, after the players saw what he said, they started viewing Stan Van as a company man, as a yes man. That he could care less about us. He just was worried about his job and working for the Pelicans. He doesn't really care about us. And so when you feel like someone doesn't care about you, you're not going to do as much for them. You're not going to want to be around them as much. And that's what the players are doing. I mean, they feel like Stan Van doesn't care about them. Why would you want to play for someone that doesn't really care about you? Even if it is a business at the end of the day, but still. And then recently with the quotes, the recent press conference, post-game conference that Stan Van had when when Pelicans lost to the Knicks the other day, off a blown, which was bad defense, by the way. Eric Bledsoe forgot to foul Derrick Rose, and Lonzo Ball, for some reason, playing help side. They're up 3 with 9 seconds left. Just give up the layup to Derrick Rose. Why is he playing pretty much in no man's land? Gives up the pass to the corner and they hit the shot, which is bad defense. But there's a time and place for everything. So with the way the season is going right now and the way the players feel about you, you have to read the room as Stan Van. And I don't think he was able to read the room because he went out there to the post-game conference and he berated and denigrated his players to the media. That's not the time for that. Now, if you guys have had a better season up to date, then yes, then you can light a spark under them by saying, we got to do better. They flat out play terrible. But what he said high schoolers could make that read or play better defense, quote unquote, play better defense than that. And as a player, and I already don't think you care about me as a coach, and you say that, oh, I'm officially checked out. I could care less about what you say now. I don't care at all. In fact, let me finish this season so I can get out of here. That's what I would be thinking. And so he went out there a couple of days ago and he said that in the post-game conference. And so now these guys are obviously clearly 100% checked out. And Stan Van didn't do a good job of reading the room for that. Now, at this point in the season, that's not the time for that because you have already lost the team before then, and they don't care about you now. And I promise you, if David Griffin hadn't just signed Stan Van Gundy to a 5-year contract, Stan Van Gundy would be out of New Orleans after this season. I guarantee you. I promise you. If he did not just receive that 5-year contract, he'll be out. He'll be out. He would not be in. No, he would not be in New Orleans next season. I promise you. I promise you. As he shouldn't be. I don't think Stan Van is the right guy for that young team. They need someone like Mark Jackson, or like I said, what they already had, Alvin Gentry, someone that's going to be more of a father figure and a role model to them. And it's kind of ironic that Stan Van Gundy is quote unquote known for his defensive principles. Yet they're giving up 115 points a game, which is telling me that they're checked out. The players are checked out. They don't care. They don't care. Stan Van Gundy's known for his defensive principles. And he has had great defensive teams. And when you see a team that's athletic and long and young, like this New Orleans team, who has the potential to play great defense, and you match that with the coach that has great defensive principles, and they're still not playing defense, there's a disconnect. Those players don't care. They don't want to play for Stan Van Gundy anymore. They don't. And you would expect them to have more grit, more want, more desire at this point in the season, because they have the potentiality to make it to the playing games. But now they're 5 games out, 5 games behind San Antonio for that last playing game, playing team. They're not going to make that. No. But if they would have had another coach who was invested in them, I guarantee you they would be playing hard right now. Or they might not even be in the situation to have to play in the playing game. They might be in the play because everyone expected New Orleans to be a playoff team, a top 8 team. But now we get them as the 11 seed, or the 12 seed. Sorry. So I just don't think it's a good pairing. And when I saw that they hired Stan Van Gundy, I was like, oh no, this isn't gonna work. It's not gonna be a good fit. No. Because you have to have a coach that's gonna be patient as well. And when it comes to being patient with people, it's about it's not necessarily what you're saying, but how you're saying it. I guarantee you, Alvin Gentry could say the same thing that Stan Van Gundy is saying, but because of his tone and the way he's saying it, it's going to come across better to those players. And they're going to be more receptive of it. But Stan Van Gundy, man, not to say he's not a bad coach, and he's a good coach. His resume speaks for itself. He's just not the guy. He's not the one for these guys. Sometimes you're just not the one. You're not the one for that person, but it's okay. You have to move on. Unfortunately, New Orleans signed a very large contract, gave a very large contract to Stan Van, 5 years. So they're not going to get rid of him after one season. But I don't know if this team's ever going to reach their full potential with Stan Van Gundy as the head coach. If you had forced me to give an answer right now, I don't think they do. I don't think they reach their full potential. But that's what I've seen and what I've observed. These guys, the players are completely checked out. They're not listening to Stan Van anymore. Because think about that. So the play I just referenced, when they lost to blew that lead to New York the other night, Lonzo Ball is a great defender, and it was just a mental lapse. But if you're locked in, you're not going to have those mental lapses, because Lonzo was playing in no man's land. On White's playing off his man who's in the corner, and they're up 3. But you see Derrick Rose drive to the basket. Either way, he's going to score 2 points. Give up the 2-pointer. Don't play off your man in the 3. So and Lonzo Ball's a great defender, like I said. So to have that mental lapse tells me that he wasn't checked in. Not only there, but not in a timeout either. If you're not checked in a timeout, you don't care what the person is saying, the coach is saying. And Eric Bledsoe, who was guarding Derrick Rose on the drive, should have fouled Derrick Rose before the drive. And Bledsoe actually said that he wasn't paying attention and he wasn't locked in. And as a coach, how are your players not locked in? As a coach, if your players aren't locked in, there's a good chance that they're not listening to you and they're checked out because they don't want to hear what you have to say. So those are 2 signs right there that tell me that. So you have one young guy in Lonzo Ball, and then you have a veteran in Eric Bledsoe. Both of those guys are checked out. As a coach, that tells me that you're not doing your job, and you have lost the locker room. With 16 games left, you have lost the locker room. You probably lost the locker room about a month ago, but now it's just apparent for everyone to see. But David Griffin's not going to fire Stan Van Gundy after one season. It'll make him look bad as a GM. That's what should be done. Stan Van Gundy should not be coaching the New Orleans Pelicans, maybe another team, but not the Pelicans. He's just not the right guy. And we have two all-stars. You have Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, both all-stars on this roster. And you have a deep bench, a young deep bench. Length, so much length and speed. They can get out on the break and run and just run. you've got these young guys, and you can't get them to at least the 8th seed or even the 9th seed, but 12? No. No, something's not right. You're not the coach that's meant to be with these guys, which is fine. It's just a sign of moving on. But the Pelicans have been a disappointment this season. Just because of the standards we set them, we all expected them to make the playoffs. Now, does that mean they're a bad team? Not necessarily. They're young. They have a lot of potential. Something's only a disappointment if you have seen potential in it. If we never saw potential in it, then it was never a disappointment. So we saw potential in the Pelicans, which is why they're disappointed. But that potential is still there because they're so young. So hopefully they can use it as a growing and learning experience going into next season. So use this year as a learning experience. The Pelicans need to. A lot of talent under the age of 25 on that roster. Tons. But speaking of the number 25 and the age of being under 25, in our last segment of the show, we are going to talk about CJ McCollum. Is he a top 25 player in the NBA? And if so, why is no one talking about him? We're also going to be talking about Lamelo Ball, another player under the age of 25, a rookie, I might add, who just got cleared for basketball activity after hurting his wrist. But should he return for the last portion of the season? Only 16 games left. Stick around for the last segment of the show to hear my thoughts on it. You're definitely not going to want to miss it.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
All right, guys, welcome back to our final segment of the show. And if you guys have been listening up until this point, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I'm so grateful for you guys. We talked about a lot on the show today. And we talked about Steph Curry. Is he a legitimate candidate in the MVP race? And is he a top 25 player of all time? Is he on your list? If he is, why? If he isn't, why? Is he a top 5 point guard of all time? At this point in time, Steph Curry is a top 25 player of all time. And I gave you a list of things he can do to move up into the top 10 before his career is over. He is a top 5 point guard, but he's not the best point guard of all time. The best shooter just happens to play the quote-unquote point guard position in this time of positionless basketball. And is he a legitimate MVP candidate? he would need to keep up this streak that he's on of playing, lights out, shooting lights out, playing efficient basketball, while also leading Golden State to at least the 8th seed in the playoffs. That's the only way I can give him a legitimate shot of being in the MVP race. Still playing great, though. We talked about Kevin Durant and James Harden, their injuries, and how that's going to affect Brooklyn going into the playoffs, their playoff chances, playoff success. I don't think it's going to have much of an effect on them just because of what I've seen and how they play. I've seen enough of them to know that they won't have any issues adjusting to one another's playing style and forming that chemistry. The good thing about those guys, those three guys, KD, James Harden, and Kyrie, they play a style of basketball that is conducive for all three of them. You can plug Kevin Durant, like I say, into any offense, and he'll be fine. James Harden is a willing passer and amazing point guard, and Kyrie does a great job of attacking off the slash and from the wing. So they're all conducive. Their games are conducive to one another. And though they might not play that many games together before the regular season starts, I think this is the one moment where I'm putting my money on their talent as opposed to the chemistry. Because what I've seen from them is great, and it's something I've never seen before. So I'm going to trust that. We also talked about the Pelicans and why have they been such a disappointment this season? With all the young talent on that roster, why have they been such a disappointment? 7 games below 500, 4 games out of the play-in spot. It's Stan Van Gundy. His message, his words are falling on deaf ears in that locker room. And it's not to say that Stan Van is a bad coach. He's just not the coach for those guys. Sometimes you're not the right person for the job. Doesn't make you a bad person. You're just not the right one for the job. And David Griffin, I'm sure, is regretting now paying Stan Van Gundy $25 million and signing him to such a long contract. I'm sure he sees it too. Everyone sees it. There's no question. Those words are falling on deaf ears, and Stan Van Gundy has lost that locker room. But as general manager, Dave Griffin, he's not going to fire Stan Van Gundy a year into his contract, and he still owes him $25 million. That's just not going to happen. Even though that needs to happen, that's not going to get done. So the problem might not ever be fixed until Stan Van Gundy's out. But by that time, is it too late? Remains to be seen. But with that, I want to go into this last segment of the day. Is CJ McCollum, is he a top 25 player in the league? CJ McCollum's been in the league since 2013. He won the NBA Most Improved Player award back in 2016. He's a great talent, great player. And I want to say some things that I like about his game. He's very efficient with his moves and very patient. If you know, he doesn't make many crossovers, but they're all efficient. They do a good job of creating space, and he does a good job of getting to his spot, whether it's the push out or the punch drag. You know, he's getting downhill and he's get that drag dribble in. He punches the ball forward and snags it back. Everything he does is with a purpose, and he creates space, and it's efficient, which is what you want to be. You want to be efficient, right? And he does a great job of being controlled and relaxed when he attacks the basket. So he might look better than what he might actually be, and that's actually a life lesson. When you're under control and you're balanced and you're relaxed, you look better than what you might actually be. But he also does a really excellent job of using his floater in the paint. He has such a soft touch around the rim. He has one of the best floaters in the league, in my opinion. If you notice, whenever he goes up with his floater, he's always going off 2 feet, which allows him to have more control, and he looks more balanced. But one thing I like about CJ's game is that he's added his ability to play make. So when he first got in the league, he was just a scorer. He was just a scorer. But over the past 2 or 3 years, he's developed the ability to play make and not only create shots for himself, but for his teammates. And that's where you really start to see him thrive and develop. That's where I started to see him thrive and develop. By adding that element to his game of not only creating for himself, but creating for his teammates. And I think it's because of the early action that Portland likes to run. They're setting up these high ball screens almost at half court, or getting a handoff action from the big to the guard to big, almost at half court. And that's creating space. That's allowing space for the guards to play basketball and just blow by their defender. And so when you give that much space to a guard like CJ McCollum, he's gonna be able to get to where he needs to get to. And CJ McCollum thrives off of that, but not only him, but so does Damian Lillard. So CJ McCollum fits the system well. He plays well. He plays it well. The only knack I would give CJ McCollum is that he's not the best defender, but he's an undersized 2 guard. He's 6'3". And he plays the 2 because Damian Lillard plays the 1, and Dame is 6'2". So he's an undersized 2 guard. He has length, but the size, he doesn't match up well with the other 2 guards. So guarding point guards, he's a great defender, but he's undersized as a 2, so he's going to get taken advantage of. His speed allows him to recoup, but the actual size leaves him at a disadvantage. So I want to read off his stats. So far this year, he's averaging 23 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds. Like I said, he's not the best rebounder for the 2 guard as well, but that's also because he's undersized. But he has shown the ability to create well and play make for his teammates tremendously as a 2 guard. And he plays his role very well in Portland as well. So think about it. Outside of Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, who else on that team has the ability to not only create shots for himself, but for everyone else? I don't see anyone on that roster that can do that besides those 2. So CJ McCollum is essential to that Portland organization. And he plays his role well, and he does what he does well for the team and for the organization. And with all these teams in the NBA have had multitude of injuries, and so has Portland. And CJ McCollum has done a good job of keeping Portland afloat. And I mean, they're at the 6th seed right now in the Western Conference. So he's done a tremendous, commendable job leading Portland to the 6th seed. So is he a top 25 player? So let's just look at the 2 guards. Let's just look at all the 2 guards in the league right now. I'm just naming. I'm not gonna. There's no specific order. Just gonna pull names out of a hat, and I'm not gonna say anything. I just want you guys to think: is he better than these guys that I call out? Is CJ McCollum better than Devin Booker? Is CJ McCollum better than Bradley Beal? Is CJ McCollum better than Paul George? Is CJ McCollum better than Jimmy Butler? Is CJ McCollum better than Donovan Mitchell? Is CJ McCollum better than Kyrie Irving? Is CJ McCollum better than James Harden? I mean, I threw in both of those names because depending on how you feel about their playing style, they could both be considered 2 guards. I just threw both of them in. Is he better than any of those guys I just named? No. I just named you 7 2 guards. 7 shooting guards. I named you 7 shooting guards. And at best, CJ McCollum is what, the 7th or 8th best shooting guard in the NBA? And you're asking me if he's a top 25 player? I'm just throwing names out the hat right now for not even just the shooting guards, but just top 25 players in the league. I mean, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Giannis, Embiid, Simmons, Kawhi Leonard, Jokic, Murray. I mean, you see where I'm going with this? I mean, is CJ really a top 25? Steph Curry. I mean, wow, Damian Lillard. I mean, is he really a top 25 player in the league? No, he's not. But just because he's not a top 25 player in the league does not mean he's not a great player. Does that make sense? He is still a great player. He's just not a top 25 player in the league. And we're in an interesting dynamic in the NBA right now. There has never been this much talent at one time in the NBA, ever. This is the deepest talent level the NBA has had at one time in its history. And it's not even close. There is so much talent in the NBA right now. And it's beautiful to see. It makes for great basketball, makes for great narratives, makes for great entertainment. That's all sports is at the end of the day, just entertainment. It makes for good debate, talk show topics like we're doing right now. It's great for everybody. The talent level is immense. It's so deep. And it's great for basketball. If we were to put CJ McCollum in his prime 6 years ago, no question, CJ McCollum's a top 25 player. But we're in 2021, and that's not the case. And that's not taking anything away from CJ McCollum. He's still a great player. He's just not a top 25 player, which is fine. It's okay. It is okay. But we still have to give him the credit and respect that is due because he is a top 25 player. Shifting gears here, though. I want to talk about another player that made a big splash on the NBA in his rookie year. One of the flashiest rookie point guards we've seen in a while. You could argue that he may end up being the best Ball brother when all is said and done, but we'll have to wait and see. Lamelo Ball. As you guys know, he recently got cleared for basketball activity after injuring his wrist a couple of weeks ago, and he was ruled out indefinitely initially, but now got cleared for basketball activity. Should he return this season? Should he return? Should the general manager, the owner, Michael Jordan, or the head coach of Charlotte allow LaMelo Ball to play this season, these last 15 games? I know what you guys are thinking. Well, yeah, of course, Casuan, he needs the game reps. He's a rookie. He needs to get the reps in. He needs to get a feel for it. Some of you guys are also saying, well, of course, Casuan, the Charlotte Hornets are right in the thick of the playoff race. Yeah, he needs to play. I understand. I totally understand where you guys are coming from. Valid points. I totally get it. Just because LaMelo got cleared for basketball activity does not mean he's 100%. He's not 100%, and you want him to get game reps. Are those game reps going to help him if he's not at 100%? Take your time on that. And does he really need the game reps these last 15 games? We have to remember that LaMelo Ball has been playing professional basketball for like the past 3 years. Played in Lithuania, played in Australia. So his transition to the NBA is as fluid as it is because he's played professional basketball before. So his transition is smoother. Does he really need these reps if he's not going to be at 100%? And those that say, well, they're in the thick of the playoff race. Yeah, they are. You're right. Charlotte is the 8th seed right now in the Eastern Conference. They're the 8th seed, which means that if the season ended today, they would be in the play-in tournament. They're in the play-in tournament, and best case scenario, they win, and now they're the 8th seed still. And they get a matchup with the Philadelphia 76ers. You're telling me with LaMelo Ball that's going to increase Charlotte's chances of beating the Philadelphia 76ers in the 7-game series? No, it's not. It's not. So what would be the purpose of bringing Lamelo Ball back this season? So you bring him back, plays 15 games to make the playoffs, and you get bounced in the first round. And you all that while running the risk of him getting hurt again because he's not 100%. Does the risk outweigh the reward? In this situation, it does. There's no real purpose for bringing him back. Let him sit, let him rest, let him recover. Because we're being frank, Charlotte's going to make the playoffs with or without LaMelo Ball. I mean, it'd be nice to have him healthy and playing. Yeah, sure, they're a better team with him. But they're going to make the playoffs without him. And then what? With or without LaMelo Ball, they're getting bounced in the first round, probably getting swept by Philly. So what's the point? What's the point of bringing him back? He doesn't need the reps. He's not 100%. They're not going to do him any good. Be patient. Let him sit. Relax. We have to be forward-thinking, logical, rational thinkers, thinking long-term. And don't get misconstrued. It's good to be in the present moment sometimes and be reflective and appreciative of what we do have. But we do have to be logical thinkers and think forward, think long-term. What's the purpose? What's the point? What is this all going to come to? If you can't give me a solid answer, then you can't do it. So no, let him sit. Let him sit. But guys, that's all we have for today. That's all I had to talk to you about for today's show. Once again, I'm going to continue and always say this. I'm so grateful and so blessed for you guys just listening to me talk about this wonderful game of basketball. I love what I get to do for a living. I'm blessed and so grateful. And I hope that I can help you guys to grow as not only just as basketball players or fans of the game, but as individuals as well, on and off the court. Because I know with the feedback and the advice that you guys give me, it's helped me to grow, not just as a basketball player, but as an individual. And for that, I say thank you. That's all life is about: eternal, constant growth, constant progression. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in to this GSMC basketball podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Continue to do what you guys are doing, guys. Continue to subscribe, share, like, listen to us. We love the feedback. And we're on all platforms. We're on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Stream, YouTube, all streaming services. You can find us. Leave a comment. Share it. I know I'm so appreciative of all that you guys do, and I couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you so much. But until we meet again, guys, continue to stay safe, make smart decisions. I'll talk to you guys soon.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.